Hello guys, welcome to another session. In this session, we are going to look into variables in PowerShell. So let's look into the topic which we are going to cover in this session. So the topic which we are going to cover in this session is the variable basics. Within that, we are going to discuss about what is variables, and we will also look into how to define a variable in PowerShell. Then we will look into variable types, where we will discuss about loosely typed variable and the strongly typed variable. Once we understand this, we will proceed further and we will understand the variable scope. Along with that, we will also look into the PowerShell variable examples, where we will get into detail about list variable, set variable, get variable, print variable, clear variable and remove variable. So all these topics which we are going to cover. So let's jump into the editor and where we will discuss it one by one. So we are into PowerShell editor and here we will discuss about PowerShell variables. So what is PowerShell variables, or more specific, what is variables? Basically, a variable is a unit of memory in which values are stored, which we generally use to hold the values within a programming scope. Now moving to the another question, that is how variables defined in PowerShell. Defining a variable within PowerShell is a very straightforward process. You just need to write the $sign and the name, whatever the name which you want to provide. So here you have defined a variable called var. Why it is variable? Because we have used $sign. In PowerShell, the interpreter take var as a variable because we have associated a $sign. And how do we assign the value to this variable? So it is pretty much straightforward. We can put an equal to sign, and whatever the value which you will assign over here, for example 10, then the type of this variable is the type of the value which you are assigning to this variable. For example, if you are executing this, and to execute this, what you need to do, you need to select this, you need to click on this button. Now it has printed the value 10. So we want to know about what is the type of this variable. So to do that, we need to use a function called getType, and here we will get the name, and once we get the name, then we will come to know about the type of this. So run this one, again select it and press F8 or click on this button. So it is returning int32. Now again, I talked about whatever the value which you will assign, it will treat it as the same type of variable. So what it means, for example, now I am going to assign a string value to this variable. It's a string, and now again I will run it. Copy this, we will run it, select it and run the selection. So here it has returned string. Now see here, earlier when we executed this, it has returned us int32. Now it is returning string. So here you see that earlier we have assigned a integer value, then the variable is become integer int32. Then we have assigned a string, then it become string. So this type of behavior is called loosely typed. If you remember, initially we have discussed about the variable types, where we are going to discuss about loosely typed variable and a strongly typed variable. So this behavior which I have showed you now, that is a loosely typed variable, where PowerShell takes the decision of variable types on the basis of the values, what values we are assigning. This type of flexibility is really good when we are writing a small program, but it will create problems if we are writing longer program and where we have more variables. In that scenario, there might be a chances we will generate some bugs within a program due to loosely typed variables. So what is the solution for that? So the solution is the strongly typed variable. So how do we define a strongly typed variable? So that it will take only the integer variable. If we are defining an integer variable, then it will accept only the integer values. And if we are defining the string variable, then it will accept only the string variable. So let's jump into the scripting editor again and we will see all this thing in action. So now to make this variable as a int variable, what we need to do, we need to just specify int within a square bracket. And now if we will run it, it will return the 10. But suppose if you want to use this variable to assign the string, then see what will happen. Just select it and run it. See here, it throws an error. Why? Because we told that this variable only accept the int values, and now we are trying to assign the string values. So that's the reason it is throwing the error. So this is called a strongly typed variable. So this is what I wanted to show you. Now moving further, you can define these number of strongly typed variables, these number of data types. Suppose if you want to create an array variable, you can use the array with the square bracket. Same with the boolean value, date and time. GUID hash table is nothing but a dictionary. In the other programming language, hash table is referred as dictionary. In the PowerShell, it is referred as hash table, where we have key value pair, which we will discuss when we are going to discuss about the array and the dictionary variable. We have seen that int, we have assigned an int in front of variable, so it is accepting only the integer variables. So these number of data types is being supported within the PowerShell. Now moving further, let's discuss about the variable scope. So what is variable scope? So basically, a scope refers to the visibility of variables, which means which part of your program can see or say access this variable when program is executing. The variable scope in PowerShell can be either local or global. By default, a variable has a local scope. A local variable can be available in a current function or a script, while a global variable is active throughout the current PowerShell session. So here the question is, how do we define a local variable and a global variable within PowerShell? So to answer your question, let's jump into the scripting editor again. So to define a local variable, you can simply use however we are defining the variable. So for example, var is equal to, so we can put var1 and put any variable over here like 100, any value we can put over here. So this is a local variable. We will discuss more on this when we're discussing the function in the upcoming session. So for a time being, just consider that this is a local variable which is being defined within a function. So how do we define a global variable? So it is pretty much straightforward. Suppose if we want to make the same variable as a global variable, so what we need to do? We need to just put $global, remove this one like this. So this will consider it as a global variable. We will see much in action when we are going to discuss about functions. On that time, we will see all this thing in action, where we will create a local variable and the global variable, and we will access those variables while executing the function. For a time being, just consider that local variable we can define it like this, and global variable we have to use a global keyword along with the variable name, which is being separated by the colon, and you can assign the value to that variable. Now moving further, now we will look into some of the examples like how to list variable, how to set variable we have already seen, but again we will discuss. Then how to get those variables, how to print the variable, how we can clear the variable, and how we can remove the variable. So let's again jump into the PowerShell editor and we will do all this thing in action. So how do we list earlier variables which we have used? So it is pretty much straightforward. Put ls and then write variable and asterisk and select it, run. So it has listed all those variables which we have used. If you remember that we have used var, so this we have used earlier while playing with it. So just I wanted to prove a point over here is that we have used var earlier, so that's the reason it is listed out over here. So this is the way by which we can list out all those variables which we have used earlier. Now moving to another point, that is set variables, which we have already seen that to set a variable, what we need to do, you need to define a value, for example var2, and here we can assign some value, so 20, run it. So here you can run it, run the selection, and if you will look into the value, I can again run this ls variable so that I can prove the point that it is listing out all those variables. So run this. So we have var2, so we have assigned over here, and that's the reason it is showing 20. So this is the way you can set the variable. So how do we can get the variable? So it is nothing but listing those variables the same way we are listing those, but there is another way by which we can get all those variables. To get the variable, it is pretty much straightforward. You need to write get variable, and here you need to specify out string. This pipe operator I will discuss what actually it is. So here you can run it and then you can execute it. So this has listed all the variable as well. Now moving further, we will discuss about print variable now. To print the variable, it is pretty much straightforward. Again, you need to write output, and here you can specify which variable you want to print. We have created a variable 2, and here you can run it again. So it has printed 20. Now this is about printing the values on the screen, but suppose that if we want to print the value within a file, so how do we do that? Now suppose that if we want to print the variable 2, var2 within a file, so it is pretty much straightforward as well. So what we need to do, we need to grab var2, and then we will use a pipe operator, and here we will use out file, and then we will provide the path where we want to push it, and here we can tell that demo.txt, and now we will run this. Select it and click on this, and let's look into that what it has generated within demo.txt. So here I have opened the demo.txt which we have generated. So see here, it has printed the value of var2 within this file. So this is the way by which you can print the values within the file. Now moving further. Okay, so till now whatever I have showed you, that is just a demo, but I want that something meaningful. So let's design something meaningful. Here my requirement is to get all the processes which is running within the system. I can list all those processes and push it into a CSV file. So let's work into that. So this is my requirement, get all process info into a CSV file. So how do we can achieve this thing? So to implement this, what we need to do, we have to create a variable called proc, and then here we will assign a commandlet called get process, and here we will use the pipe operator proc, and then there is a pipe operator. We have to use a select, and then we want to grab the name and the path. And what we wanted to do, we wanted to export CSV, and we wanted to export at the path, the demo location, and file. Which file we wanted to export? We will create a new file, my all processes.csv. That's it. So now select both and execute it. So it is still executing. So it has listed down all the processes. Let's look into this file whether it is being generated or not, and if it is being generated, what it has given the information. So see here, it has generated this file, that is our my all processes.csv, and here we told that we wanted to get only the name and the path. So that's the reason it has extracted the value for name and the path. So this is what I wanted to demonstrate over here. Now moving further, now we have generated this CSV file. Now we want to read this CSV file and push it into a variable. So how do we can do that? So to do that, we can declare a variable get CSV info, and we want to read this file myallprocess.csv and assign into the get CSV info. So how do we can do that? So there is commandlet called get content, and then we will read this file, and then we will execute it. Run this selection. So it has executed. We need to output this, use this variable over here and try to print this. To print it, run this. So see here, it has read all the values which is being given within the CSV file, and it has pushed that information into this variable. So now moving further, now clear variable. How do we can clear the variable? So it is pretty much straightforward. So you can use another commandlet called clear variable, and then provide there is a parameter called name, and then over here you can specify the variable which you do want to clear it. So here we will be using get CSV information, and if we will run it, select it and execute it, now see that it has any values. So if we will run it, see, I copy it, put it over here, select this one, execute. See here, all the values gone. There is no value into that. So now moving further, now we will look into how to remove the variable. So we will remove the same variable. So how to do that? Again we will use another commandlet. There is called variable, remove variable, and we will specify a name, and we are going to specify the get CSV info, select it and run. So the difference between clear variable and the remove variable is that remove variable completely remove the variable from the memory, but clear variable only removes the values which is being assigned within the variable. So this is what I wanted to demonstrate you in this session. Now moving further, and let's look into the topics which we have discussed now in this session, and then we will wrap it up. So in this session we have discussed all these topics where we have discussed about variable basics, variable types, variable scopes, and we have also seen the PowerShell variable examples where we have demonstrated all those things. We have worked upon the example like list variable, set variable, get variable. So all these examples which we have done in this session, and I hope you are little comfortable with the PowerShell now. So here I am stopping this session. See you in the next session. Till then, bye bye, take care.